I kind of want to hear what your concept of beauty is.
Well, I kind of think that, I think the concept of beauty is being able to like find that within yourself. And when you have like peace in yourself, you can radiate that beauty, especially when I know that when I've been rested or I know that I'm centered, is when people most compliment me on my skin or glow, is what they say. And I think that comes from within. I think that really does.
And so I've been, watching your stories, and it seems as though you've been, kind of meditating and
Hmm.
breathing and listening to Deepak Chopra. And so does that help you with your centering and grounding?
Definitely. With everything that's going on with the world recently, I was, I would catch myself on social media or looking at the news for so long. Like I would notice the time and I'm like, how did 45 minutes go by or 3 hours? And like I would just start throwing my phone because and it was mostly recycled stuff, recycled news, the same thing, or are waiting to hear something like within the election, things like that, that kind of stress. So when I find myself getting sort of going down that rabbit hole, I turn to just having positive things around, and I just have him playing throughout the house from morning throughout the day, because I'll walk by and catch something, and it may be something that I was thinking about or needed an answer from the universe. And so, yes, it does help with all of this, just have a positive sort of mantra in your ear.
So it's like because of the pandemic and people, and you're in LA, right? And having to lock down and having curfews. So you say that you surround yourself with positive things. Like what else is positive for you that you wouldn't be able to surround yourself because of the pandemic?
Kind of thing. Well, I guess traveling more, it really feeds my soul to like be in different cultures and surrounded by different people. And I'm really a social person, so this has really taught me a different side of myself. And I was getting a lot of messages before, and they're like, "I bet this is really hard for you." And I was like, "Well, I own a restaurant. That's mostly like work and a nightclub, and for me, that's work." And my close friends know that like the real me is I like to be alone, but I never got those moments before.
Mm-hmm.
So finding that part of myself again, I've really cherished, and I think that's been the plus side of all of this is, once you kind of accept the realization of like everything's crumbling down,
Right?
then you're able to build yourself back up from there. And that took a moment. It was really hard in the beginning, and then being down or depressed is not a natural state for me. And so I had to really look at myself and be like, this isn't you.
Mm-hmm.
Now what have we done before to get out of this? And that's just, getting eating healthier and just making better choices for me. And it really pulls me out of that. And yeah.
So you mentioned that you own restaurants and it's a restaurant nightclub, but you're also a jewelry designer.
Yes, yes.
So, how did you get into that business?
Well, from a very really, now that I just thought about it, a memory popped in my head. Like at sixth grade, I had one of those jewelry kits, and I was making like bracelets and earrings with beads and stuff, and I would sell them to like my mom's office or like neighboring offices. And so I started selling jewelry at a really young age, and I guess the love for jewelry probably was like, 'cause I used to always have to clean my mom's vanity and organize her stuff. I don't know if I had to or if that was just like my OCD, but I remember doing it a lot, and I would put on all of her jewelry and really love, that feeling of just like jazzing things up.
Hmm.
And Elizabeth Taylor, kind
Right.
of like what she
Diamonds.
does for every, these have always brought me luck. her camping. But so it started off as a really young age, and then I started getting into acting and theater and stuff, and that's one of the main reasons why I moved to LA for film school. But I missed the creative side, so I started making these like vintage coins and having them dipped in gold, like francs and stuff like that, old Italian coins, and then selling them at a boutique. And and then I moved away from fashion for a minute, and then I met my partner now, Jason of Beverly Hills, and he was like, I was like, I've been wanting to do a line, I can't stop thinking about it, and I didn't know exactly what that would be. And then one of my friends said, well, you've already started this blog called Marcus is the Drug. Why don't you go off of that? And the reason why I called it Marcus is the Drug is because Salvador Dali is one of my favorite artists. And he says, I don't do drugs, I am the drug. So he would, it's mostly a play on words of like, my thought was, addiction to this blog or addiction to jewelry. And so I did a drug addiction themed jewelry line was my first line, and it had a pill pendant and a razor blade diamond necklace. And in the beginning, I got a lot of like, oh, you're promoting drug use, and that wasn't where my original thought was. It come from a quote that was an inspiration for my writing that led to like, let's keep it all in like a cohesive kind of creative space. And it like, that was a little like, I was like, I don't want to do that. And kind of letting those other people's thoughts hinder my creativeness and for a moment. But then I would get also other messages of like doctors that, work in a specific field and like, or live with diabetes, because I had a syringe necklace and they're like, I live with a syringe every day. And when I saw your necklace, you made it to something beautiful. It helped save my life. And that meant something different for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, much later on in life, like 10 years later, Christian Louboutin came out with the pill clutch. And then I think Jeremy Scott had like pills, and not saying this was, people have used this kind of design before, but then I was just thinking how it was more acceptable when a bigger known designer does it. Like Dior had their Addict makeup line, those kind of things. And I was like, oh, well, so a big brand can do it, but like if I do it, it's like
you're
I'm promoting drugs.
drugs.
Right. And so that was interesting. So yeah, I've been in jewelry design for quite some time, and with my restaurant and stuff, it hasn't allowed me to create new collections, but I still draw and sketch and stuff. So I'm ready for something.
Do you think that's what brought you to the scene, your jewelry collection?
I think my jewelry and it was just sort of the Renaissance person inside of me that I think brought me to the scene. Just sort of naturally being drawn to people. I just love making connections and stuff like that.
So now you're in the restaurant business, and that how do you express your creativity now if it's not through jewelry? How else to express yourself?
Yeah, and so that's a great part. That's a great question, because I thought about that a lot, and not to like harp on Salvador Dali, but he did so many other things than just painting or sculptures. He was a writer. He was a filmmaker. And so I thought, am I getting away from my creative process, with this restaurant side? But I've always loved food and have always dreamt of having a restaurant. But what it allows me now to do is creatively design a space where people feel safe and inspired to just have a good time and let loose. And then for me, what I do, and I'm not sure if you've seen some of my crazier outfits, but I get to be and wear and create sort of this persona of when I go out to my own places, and I feel safe doing it there, where I can create these like kind of uh, embellished looks,
Right. It's like
And so,
vintage Elton John, right? How Elton
yeah,
would come out with like these outlandish, creative
yeah,
outfits,
definitely.
to fit his mood or the persona that he wanted to be on stage, you
And
know?
that's how I kind of start off every night. I'm like, who do I want to be tonight? And and then I can do that, and because I do have a space that's mine, I feel safe doing that. Do I necessarily feel safe doing it at in LA? We live in sort of a more accepting bubble, but other places I don't, and and so I'm happy to create a space for more people to just be able to just be comfortable. Yeah.
So, you talk about creativity, and one thing that I found out about you, what I thought was so interesting and I loved, was that, and tell me if this is true, that you love Bruce Lee.
Obsessed.
Obsessed. And I love Bruce Lee. And so what I get out of Bruce Lee is discipline, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so do you find that that trait in yourself? Because even though creative is like, expressing yourself and being able to be
Definitely.
taking risk and wild, but there still is also a discipline to it, right?
Right. There's a center. Yes. And, at a very young age, I found Bruce Lee, and I found his martial arts book that he wrote, The Art of Jeet Kune Lee. But I recently found that book again, my
Okay.
old book, and I started reading it, and it is a lot about discipline and disciplining yourself and spirit and vibrations. All of that is in there that I didn't even know that I'd already given that to myself at a young age. Because I didn't really probably know I wanted like more of the martial arts part of that. But I did give myself that center, and I did give myself that discipline because that's who I am now. And so rereading that many years later, I was like, oh, that's why I'm like a certain way, or, this is where I get it from that I hadn't even realized.
Right. So it's kind of like
Yeah,
with this pandemic, I know it's hard to find the silver lining, but it seems as though you're able to tap in and rediscover your certain parts of yourself that maybe you
exactly.
had
Yeah.
not ignored but forgotten.
Forgotten.
So
Yeah.
it's almost like welcoming an old friend. So what
Hmm.
parts do you think that you've rediscovered that you want to keep, or parts of yourself that you're like, you know what, I don't like this, then I want to get rid of this or cleanse out?
I think that the part that I do want to keep is I recently started getting back, along with my meditation, and starting my day off, sort of uh, being able to center myself. I want to keep that. I want that to be my priority first,
Hmm.
then grabbing my phone and checking my Instagram, and give my time that. There's times throughout your day where you're just sitting in a car or something that you can check that. But when you're home and this is the time to do it, this is what I want to keep for my mornings at least, or starting my day,
Hmm.
and continue martial arts because I think that really really keeps a drive in me. Like really, I'm so disciplined when I practice. And things that I think I can get rid of is just saying no more.
Yeah.
Now it's become really easy to just say, because I would say yes to every event, every hosting someone's birthday,
Hmm.
and hosting all my friends' birthdays. And now I need to say no because I need time for the rest of the things that I want.
Right.
Yoga, the meditating, book reading, even like all of those things. So, just kind of saying yes to myself and no to spreading myself too thin.
To hear the full conversation, click the link below and follow us on Instagram at Naya Beauty App. Thanks for watching.